Spurs 2, Chelsea 4. Chelsea making it 4 wins in a row in the Premier League. Only 4 points off the Premier League summit and another brilliant win away at Spurs. It's kind of an annual tradition. We're talking a lot about traditions at the moment because it is the festive period, and it certainly is one that we do pretty regularly, which is win away at Spurs, which is wonderful. But still, it's a significant result, and the manner in which it came about is something that I think is also significant based on the development and progress of this team that we'll get into. And I'm sure, every game Chelsea win, it's only going to ramp up the belief and discussion of us being in a title race. We'll touch on that in today's show, and obviously how it went down in the game, the positives over, of course, the overwhelming positives, and maybe some concerns defensively, but I think Maresca deserves credit for being proactive and adjusting in the game. I think really helped Chelsea in that second half. Please let me know your thoughts. I'm going to be doing my added time Q&A later today, recording that. So if you want to get your Chelsea questions in, put them down in the comments below, or you can submit them on Blue Sky or even on Instagram, and I'll add them to this week's show. So this game was a great opportunity for Chelsea. We spoke about it in the preview. Many people spoke about it based on Spurs form. The chance for Chelsea to go 11 points clear of Spurs, really cement themselves. And of course, one thing we didn't know at the start of this weekend was the way everyone else was going to perform. The fact that because of weather, Liverpool and Everton would be called off. Man United would lose. Man City would drop points. Arsenal would drop points as well. So really, when you get to that Super Sunday game 4:30 kickoff, Chelsea are suddenly in a stronger position because they really can cement their place, especially at second, but also just generally in the top four. And Spurs kind of shocked us with especially seeing Van de Ven and Romero both start. And is that their first choice back four? How is the game going to turn around? And actually Spurs, based on recent big games, they actually seem to perform quite well. So there was always a bit of caution with this game, and maybe it wasn't going to be as dominant as some of us expected. And the way the game started was calamitous. I just want to quickly touch on the starting 11 because it didn't surprise me that Maresca went to kind of the system that he played against Aston Villa. I think it pretty much was, barring Badiashile coming in for Fofana, it was the identical starting 11. And I don't blame Maresca for doing that because it works so seamlessly and you are getting a lot of informed players on the pitch. You know, Pedro Neto, Jadon Sancho, Palmer, Fernandez is in the form of his Chelsea career. Lavia, Caicedo has been Chelsea's best player. But I did kind of flag it in the preview that maybe there would be an adjustment because not only are you playing two left-footed centre-backs, but also if you don't kind of have a natural right-back with the wide threats that Spurs possess, could that be more of a problem than it was against Aston Villa? And that absolutely was the case. That wasn't the only problem. I mean, one of the big problems in that first half was Cucurella's boots, which we can all laugh about now. I have no idea what was going on. Cucurella just, Peter Drury gave a Cinderella quote during the game that was a little bit cringe, and Jamie Carragher was quite embarrassing on commentary, and I just thought, here we go, 2-0 down. The manner of both goals, I thought that Robert Sanchez for the first one looked a little bit comical, diving out of the way, it felt like. And in the second one, I thought he should have done better at. But both goals looked chaotic. They looked bad defensively, and Chelsea looked pretty shaky, especially down that right side. And obviously later in the game, Maresca adjusted. However, I always did feel confident that Chelsea would get opportunities. I think partly because of our ability to create those opportunities and to play the game quite freely, and so many players are in good form at the moment. There's a real invention and rhythm to this team in attack. But also Spurs. I mean, Spurs do give you a bit like Southampton. Southampton are kind of the extreme end of this, but you know, it's funny, we've played Southampton and Spurs in recent days, and both of those teams are very giving, and it's a giving time of the year, and Spurs were very giving to Chelsea because, you know, they don't adjust. Postecoglou is not a coach that seems to understand the differences in game state, understand that when you're 2-0 up, you probably shouldn't go gung-ho, you probably shouldn't be trying crew turns in your own box. You know, you probably should be a little bit more sensible and understand and appreciate the opponent you're coming up against. That's one of the things that makes Maresca a very good coach so far for Chelsea, is he has been flexible, he has been pragmatic at times, he has understood that at times you have to vary up what you do, and that's why I think he's having success at the moment. Difference with Postecoglou is you know what you're getting, and I think against Chelsea, when you offer us that much space, it wasn't so much there was times in the game when absolutely we got in behind their high line. It was more the case, as I also spoke about, and is really becoming kind of a second threat for Chelsea, is this space in between defence and midfield where Palmer and Enzo pick up so many good positions and really can hurt. They are kind of becoming two number 10s for Chelsea at the moment, and our passing was quite seamless. Now, I'm not going to deny, when you look at the stats, I mean, Spurs had an XG of nearly 3. Although our possession was higher, we had more shots and more shots on target. Let's not get away from the fact that Spurs could have scored a few more. I mean, Robert Sanchez was doing his usual kind of passing the ball straight to a Spurs player inside our own half. Solanke had an opportunity. Even in the second half, Son had an opportunity. So in ways, it did kind of reflect what happened at Spurs last year. However, I think the way Chelsea were able to compose themselves, go 2-0 down and not completely collapse, which other teams, definitely previous Chelsea teams would have, I think, in that situation. And to keep calm, to go back to what they're doing, be confident and composed on the ball, find that space and look to exploit. I mean, Jadon Sancho, 2-2 for him now. Let's hope he can continue this rich train of form on his right foot. He has scored at that ground before, not from that distance. It was an amazing finish and exactly the sort of attacking spark and ingenuity that we've been getting from Chelsea players so far this season, that you really need in these moments to really turn the tide. Because I felt the moment we got that first one, it's game on, especially against this Spurs side. And the adjustment that Maresca made at half-time was key. Now, I think Lavia had a very good first half. I don't know if it was anything to do with the elbow that he got from Kulusevski. Obviously, there could have been 2 red cards in that first half that neither were given, and one of those was the elbow on Lavia. I thought Lavia played some brilliant passes round the corner, definitely exploiting that Spurs lack of structure and finding whether it was Cole Palmer and Enzo Fernandez who could turn and then run at the Spurs defence. However, you bring in a more conventional right back, and that solves kind of the biggest issue of that first half was the way in which Son especially, and just the way Spurs down that right side were able to really get at us. And Colwell moving over to the right side, Badiashile onto the left, looked a lot more stable. Gusto was able then to invert a little bit more. Chelsea were able to keep a hold of the ball, keep that pressure sustained for a longer period of time. And sure, again, it is self-inflicted implosion from Spurs. I don't know what Bassoon was doing, but really good from Chelsea to keep that pressure up, to keep Spurs pen back and to make them make bad decisions, because they are a team that make consistently bad decisions in defence. And the penalty, Cole Palmer never missing penalties. And it's 2-2. And then, listen, Enzo Fernandez, his biggest goal, arguably I'm trying to think, it's one of his biggest goals for Chelsea. It's one of his most memorable goals in a Chelsea shirt. And it really cements what has been an incredible turnaround. I don't think many of us saw coming. I know there's a lot of big Enzo Fernandez fans, but the way he started the season was really, really concerning. He was nowhere near influencing games enough. His passing was poor. His lack of mobility, it just felt like games were passing him by rather than him dictating it, which is kind of the point of having Enzo in the team. In the last few weeks, it's been the reverse of that. He is at the centre of most of Chelsea's good things. He is adding a goal threat from central midfield, which is what we need, and really stepping up and becoming that obvious threat that a player like Fernandez needs to be. Because when he's in the form like this and he's scoring goals and he's setting up chances and he's finding pockets of space that are so creative and really damaging for the opponent, you justify and can kind of deal with maybe the limitations he has off the ball, because it's so clear he's having a real positive impact in the final third. And from there, 3-2, I mean, the celebrations were incredible. And obviously, another penalty, another stupid decision from a Spurs player. And Palmer doing the Eden Hazard special, Panenka. And I mean, just on a side note, I thought it was absolutely comical that Spurs fans were throwing so much rubbish onto their own pitch in that first half as a, I guess, means to try and threaten Chelsea fans. I mean, just throwing a load of paper on the pitch. And then they end up seeing their team bottle a 2-0 lead. And I mean, just at the end of the day, they look very stupid and they just threw a bunch of crap onto their own pitch, which maybe is a metaphor for that stadium and the club. I don't know. But it was very hilarious seeing how that all played out in the end. And sure, the goal late on from Son was frustrating to give away, and the fact that there was at least one heart-in-mouth moment very near the end that could have ended in disaster. But listen, this is a big win for Chelsea. I keep on saying this. These are big wins. I mean, especially at this time of the year, you've seen how this opportunity has been grasped by Maresca and his players and has taken Chelsea to a point now where, sure, you have to add in the context that Liverpool have not played one game, but even if they win that game, that's 7 points. Listen, it's not where we want to be in the end. We would like to be in a position where we're seriously in a title race. But I keep on going back to this. If you would have said to me after that first Man City game in pre-season, even before then, that Chelsea at this point of the season would be only 4 points off the top, would be confident, the top goal scorers in the league, we'd be 2-0 down in games, we'd come back easily and win. The fans would look connected to the team, the players would look in fine form. Players like Enzo Fernandez would be going up another level, so would Moises Caicedo. And even with some of the squad problems and I guess injury problems or ways that the squad could still be improved, we're kind of being overawed by especially the attacking quality. All of us would have bitten your hands off at the start of the season. And that is the reality of Chelsea at the moment. And that's why it's so joyous. It kind of is a little bit surreal how quickly it's gone from one feeling. But then I guess, there was hope at the end of last season that Chelsea could progress again. I think how quickly they've progressed to a point where people are discussing a title race shows that progression. The big thing for me is that points gap between us and the likes of Spurs, the likes of Aston Villa, and even the likes of Man United, who I don't think will be in a top 4 race. But at this point in the season, again, you have to go back to the start of the season. Who did we think we were going to be competing against? Now, in terms of the title race, listen, I think it's just whether we want to say yes or no, it's just nice to have that conversation because it's not a conversation we've been able to seriously have at this club for a long period of time. Chelsea haven't been in a serious title race since they last won the Premier League title back in 2017. It's a long way to go, and I think Liverpool are stronger in several areas, and I do think Chelsea have still some key flaws that I think unfortunately would let them down in the title race. I still look at the goalkeeper. I think he's still a massive problem. Without Fofana, I think that's a problem because I think the level does drop in that back four. However, in attack, Chelsea are ferocious. Even Nicholas Jackson has a pretty poor performance, but still we're scoring 4 goals. That shows you the strength that Maresca has in his attack, and to have this productive attack, to go from night and day of an attack a few years ago. I mean, it was so funny watching Werner on that pitch because he reflected a time in recent Chelsea history when we could barely score 1 goal, let alone 2, let alone 3, let alone 4. In the last week, we have battered teams. We have put goals past them at quite some ease. And to see, even when you rotate and you take off a player like Madueke and you see Jadon Sancho come in and he's finding form, Pedro Neto's been finding form, Enzo Fernandez is now finding goal-scoring form. It's the sign of especially a group and an environment that's very positive. And at the centre of it still is obviously the genius of Cole Palmer, who the calmness, the kind of the contrast of the fact that he's one of the best players I've ever seen play for Chelsea, and the impact in terms of a signing, one of the best impact signings I've ever seen at Chelsea in my life. You contrast that with his media kind of personality. I mean, it's just absolutely comical how little he seems to care on that aspect. Maybe it will improve as he gets older, but I think it just brings more charm and kind of love for him as a hero at Chelsea. And he's the star, the jewel in the crown at the moment. But it's nice, I said this at the start of the season, you need to add more to that. Like, there needs to be an ability of other players to step up and rise to Palmer's level. And I think that's what you've got this year. And I think that's why Chelsea are able to weather the storm of going 2-0 down, because there's a confidence and a conviction within the team that there's enough quality to overawe teams like Spurs, who are, I think, fundamentally flawed football teams. I think Postecoglou approaches games in a very stupid and naive way, but you still have to take those opportunities. You still have to have the aggression, the right mentality to very much take on that challenge and very much thrive. And I think that's what Chelsea are doing at the moment. And just to wrap up, you look at the upcoming Premier League games. I know we've got a couple of Conference League games, but I think those will be less eventful, I have to be honest, because Chelsea are basically qualified, and we will be able to rotate the team drastically. If you look at the next few Premier League games, Brentford at home, Everton away, Fulham at home, and I think Ipswich away is how we round out 2024. Those 4 games are great opportunities again for Chelsea. And you think about where we are after the last 4 games, where we could be in the next 4 games. If Chelsea could win the next 4 games, I think we do have to kind of seriously turn around and go, yeah, I think we probably are in a title race, or at the very least, we're a lot higher than we expected to be, which even now is the case. Let's be honest. I predicted us 5th. Chelsea looked like they could comfortably finish in the top 4 based on this form, comfortably even finish in the top 3, to be above Arsenal, to be above Man City. You have to factor that in, and it all comes down, I think, to Maresca's ability to adapt, to work with this squad, to appreciate what he has with this squad, to elevate players and continue the growth of players like Cole Palmer, who are amazing, to start to get a tune out of players like Enzo Fernandez is, I think, credit to him and others too. So it's a joyful time. It's a wonderful time of the year. I've started to get the Christmas decks out slightly poorly, maybe a little bit like Cucurella's boots at the start of that game, but we're feeling joyous at the moment, and to even be in a position right now where we can have title conversations is a reflection of where Chelsea currently are. And you want this mood to continue. You want this kind of great belief to continue. There will be setbacks, but I think at the moment, the greatest thing we can say about this Chelsea team, because there's even been setbacks so far this year, that this Chelsea team has, rode those setbacks, have been able to respond positively, and been able to very much grasp the opportunity that has been there so far this year, where other teams around them have dropped levels, which is credit to them, especially given how young of a group it is. So those are my thoughts. Please let me know yours in the comments below. Add your questions for added time, and I'll see you again very soon. All the best. Up the Chelsea.